My name is Scott Lobdell. I've actually been in education now for 30 years, and pretty much 18 of those 30 years has been doing virtual education. In fact, I was one of the founders of EdOptions Academy back in 2006. Really doing virtual education since 2001 when I was with the Palm Beach County School District in South Florida. Um, One thing about what we wanted to do today, obviously, is talk about teacher shortage, which is an area I think that a lot of people don't look first to virtual education as a solution, but is something that we have, and as I can tell you from my point of view, is something we've been working on since 2008. Is really fulfilling that need for schools and school districts that don't have permanent teachers that are certified in areas that are desperately needed by a lot of school districts throughout the country today. So let's take a look first at why is there a teacher shortage. We'll take a look at some of the solutions that have been proposed, and then we'll go ahead and make our argument for virtual education as at least a temporary solution, or even in some cases a more substantial solution. So, as I said here, let's start with why is there a teacher shortage today? Well, it's amazing that the attrition rate is a really big part of that problem. Right now, the attrition rate is double the rate of people entering into teacher prep programs. A lot of students are going into colleges and just not going into the teaching arts studies. They are finding that obviously that it is not for them. A lot of things would probably scare them off, such as the growth of duties on teachers, but also the pay structure that is just not as good as some other industries that are drawing students there. In fact, because of these attrition rates, you're talking about just an example. Some of these large school districts have hundreds of openings at the beginning of each school year. I know New York City has had an issue for a long time, for I would say close to 30 years, because I remember they actually when I was in school actually tried to pull me out of school in my senior year to go teach instead of do student teaching, actually start my first year and get paid for it. They end up with thousands of openings every single year, which obviously is not good for the students, and we'll get into that a little bit further in a second. But not just your large school districts, but your rural school districts. In fact, that's where we're seeing much more of a need today, because rural school districts are finding it very difficult to draw teachers to go live near that school district, and also they can't pay as much. So it's been a very difficult problem for your rural school districts. So when you start talking about your larger school districts, just with the vast numbers that they need, in your rural school districts, it really does create that problem. The critical areas, if you take a look at any of the studies that are done on the needs that are out there, you're talking about career and technical education, which in and of itself is very important because it is an area of growth as far as both virtually and also in the regular classroom, where school districts are really pushing, because industries are really pushing for the need to have students prepped and ready to actually go to work and actually come out of school, not just with a diploma, but with certification, being ready to work. So we're finding it very difficult to find the teachers to fill those needs. Then computer science, which also I guess you can actually throw it into career and technical education. But computer science, those who are doing well in computer science are staying in that field and not really coming back to the teaching end of it. you have a situation where, strangely enough, even Spanish is becoming a difficult position to fill. A lot of school districts have actually drawn back on their foreign languages. They don't offer as many as they used to, because number one is a lack of teachers, but also just because of lack of time. So you're starting to really see a shortage in foreign language, and then in math and in science. I know that in Palm Beach County, when I was working within the school district, and I know they continue to do that. I still live in Palm Beach County. They have gone and sent recruiters as far as the Philippines to go find math teachers. And a lot of laws are out there. I know in the state of Florida that they had passed laws that you could not have more than 22 students to an Algebra 1 course. And when you're talking about schools that are very large, and having to bring in more teachers, you start trying to actually, they end up eliminating electives. They start adding more of the core courses. They start bringing in teachers any which way they can to fulfill state mandates. So again, we're talking about a lot of situations here where we have students sitting in classrooms where you don't have certified teachers in that area. Let's take a look real quick at some of the solutions that the states have really come up with. First of all, higher teacher pay. Of course, that is going to try to draw some more people in, and also keep people, because a lot of people actually go into the teacher profession, but maybe 2 or 3 years later they find maybe it's not for them. Maybe they're what they're looking at as far as a prospect of future earnings, but also the live situation of actually what it is to be a teacher. It's not for everybody, as we all know. But even as it says here, a problem of higher pay. What we're talking about is the larger cities can definitely pay more, so it's still, they may be able to recruit teachers at a higher level, but then your rural areas are still not being able to recruit. Some states have gone to emergency certifications, but the problem with emergency certifications, because a lot of times you may get someone who has a background in engineering, so they can bring them in and teach a math course or two. But the problem is that they're not trained teachers, and we all know that it's one thing about knowing information. It's another thing knowing how to actually take that information and teach it to young men and women who are needing to learn this information. And then also substitute teachers, trying to bring in as many of these substitute teachers as they can. In fact, I know of a lot of states that have actually lowered their requirements to be a substitute teacher. They no longer need to be 4-year college bound or college graduates. They could be 2-year college graduates, just as long as they have someone who's in the classroom who has some kind of concept of how to run it. But again, we're talking about a long-term sub who is not trained really to be a teacher. And obviously there are risks. There are risks there that are very, very important to consider. Students really are not going to be getting a quality education because these are not trained people. And the students, they actually, they deserve to have someone who is trained in that area, someone who is going to actually teach them, because as we know, especially in the core areas like math and science, they build upon one another, especially math. So when you are leaving students unprepared for the next level, then it's going to be difficult for them. I've seen it across the board when I was actually in the school system, where when I was a guidance counselor, I would see students who would come even up from middle school. These were students who were advanced students taking algebra and geometry for high school credit in middle schools. But because they weren't working a lot of times with teachers who were well trained in teaching those areas, all of a sudden you had students who were having difficulty in the next step. They may have had A's and B's in those courses in middle school, but they were getting into Algebra 2, their next step, and failing. Not all of them, but it ended up being definitely an issue for them, and that's something that is definitely a risk for a lot of these students moving on. In fact, I saw that this year with a school district in one of our southern states here. I'm not going to point out who they are, but they actually started using virtual education courses, and many of the students were not even prepared for the courses that they were supposed to be in. So it ended up being, a good situation for them because we were able to provide them with certified, highly qualified teachers, and do that and catch up a lot of the students. But at first it was a struggle because they were not ready for what they were supposedly ready for. And then the second bullet point here for risks, students will leave your district. Mothers and fathers, guardians, they don't want to see their students be, falling behind. They have dreams of moving forward and making sure that those dreams are fulfilled through an education. So you'll have parents go to homeschool, they'll go to other virtual options, or private schools, whatever it may be. But they will find, and there's a lot of competition out there today for that student, because it does, and a lot of times, especially when you're talking about charter schools, private schools, virtual schools, it just means that competition is much higher than it's ever been before. So let's then talk about the solution using a virtual school, because again, I don't see this as in the argument as usually being the first of many ideas out there. In fact, I usually don't even see this as an idea as being discussed by many states. But it really truly is an option. Again, because I've seen it in action, and we'll be able to share with you a couple of different examples later on. But really, what happens with a virtual school partnership, you're able to take a teacher who's a certified teacher, and I know the school that I work for, EdOptions Academy, we are definitely looking for master teachers who can, to go from that classroom and to the virtual realm, continuing to be that master teacher, and as we can train them to be that virtual teacher. But at the very least, they're certified and they know how to teach that course, and it could definitely fill that temporary need that a lot of school districts, really need for it could be at the beginning of the school year when you couldn't hire on someone, or even in the middle of the school year when maybe someone has retired for whatever reason, and you need someone to fill that for 1 or 2 months at a time, or even for a whole entire semester, maybe even full year. But again, bringing the virtual school, being able to bring in a certified teacher who knows how to do it, plus the curriculum. That's the other thing, is the curriculum that is going to be used, the meeting state standards, very important, a part of that, because it becomes kind of that deal, right? Where you get both the teacher and great curriculum that teacher is ready, prepared to deliver to the students. Number two here, provides a virtual curriculum that fulfills state standards, as I said, graduation standards as it is. So that student is not going to fall behind. As I said, I used to be a guidance counselor, and believe me, that is what is on the mind of all guidance counselors. It's on what's on the mind of, obviously students who want to make sure they're fulfilling their graduation requirements. But if they're having difficulty because it's in a core course, or even in a required course like health, then it's going to be difficult for them down the road, especially many school districts pulling back and not running summer schools anymore, or some states that require credit that matches the schedule, meaning that a student can't fail one semester of a course, or one course through the year, because it automatically is going to fall them behind, and then now the student is playing catch up. And a lot of times it could be because, again, not having that teacher in that classroom who really is able to teach that student. Number three, it provides personalized learning paths, which to me, it changes up the whole entire dynamic. You're having a teacher in the classroom, using that cohort method. And I was in the classroom for over a decade, teaching social studies, and you get to the point where you understand, and that this whole entire class moving together is not going to be beneficial for every single student in that classroom. And the virtual curriculum actually can change that up, really allowing students who are really good in that subject area to kind of move quickly through the material, but allowing that teacher then to really make this more of a personal situation and individualized education for that student who may be struggling. And now the teacher can really concentrate on those students who are working a little bit slower, finding the material a little bit harder. But the teacher, again, because it's something that happens all the time in virtual education, is able to teach that student a lot better in that situation for that student. Number four, it expands course offerings. So one student can take one course if needed. And that's another thing that's a beauty, is that we know that there are situations where not only are we missing teachers, but it could be something that the student is then just, put in a one-off situation. They have their regular schedule. They really can't change that schedule. They may need credit recovery in that situation, but virtual education can take care of that, because you don't have to purchase a teacher that's going to, needs to teach 30 students. Now you can have really just one student taking one class from a teacher who's certified in that area, and it can really help in scheduling needs for students, instead of having to, as I said, hire a teacher who is going to cost the district a lot of money, but you just don't have the number of students who want to take that or need to take that course. So again, it's a way to really, going back to even more personalized learning. Maybe a school district, a rural school district that can't afford AP courses, or can't bring in an AP teacher, but now you have 2 or 3 students taking AP courses in that they would never able to take before. And then finally, to me, it's just very cost effective to bring in virtual curriculum, virtual school package, because really it's the difference between hiring someone with full pay plus health benefits and other benefits that come around. Virtual education is definitely a lot cheaper to run than to bring on those teachers. And again, I know a lot of school districts want to do that, want to have that live person there in that school, work in that class. But again, for a temporary solution, it ends up being, again, very cost effective in doing it. Let's take a look at the advantages of offering complete sections of courses virtually. All right, so it's just a continued argument about why it makes a difference and why it's good. Number one, the program itself. There is, no need to have a teacher move to your location. In fact, I know that we had a school district that was way out in the panhandle in Oklahoma. And they could not find an English teacher to move into their area. Well, we were able to find an English teacher in Oklahoma, in one of the larger cities, and we were able to hire them at EdOptions Academy and then provide full sections of English to students in that school district, because we were able to bring that teacher to them virtually instead of having to have someone move there. Of course, there's no need for emergency certification of someone who lives in the area. There was no need to pay the cost of the hiring someone full time, as I just mentioned. It allowed and will allow for flexible scheduling, because now you can really think outside the box when you're an administrator, because now this solution, the virtual education solution, really allows the student at a small school, or even in a large school district, to take courses that they've obviously never been able to take before, meet other needs, CTE courses being brought in. It just really brings about a lot of different solutions for the situation where you wouldn't be able to bring in teachers. All right, so we started out really talking about teacher shortage, but even just certain needs for students is very important, and you won't be able to bring those teachers in to teach those courses. So it really allows for that flexibility to start occurring in your school district and be able to offer more courses than you've ever been able to offer before. And second, for the advantage as far as students are concerned, the courses are done at the student's pace, not the cohort pace, as I mentioned earlier. I think that's going to be a huge benefit for students because, and we've seen it over time. As like I said, I've been doing virtual education for 18 years. There's a lot of students out there who really need to do the course at their own pace. Now, of course, there's still deadlines. There's the semester deadline or the full year deadline that must be met. But students will be able to really pace themselves. They're not worried about other students maybe moving ahead or falling behind or whatever it may be. It really becomes individualized. And as it says here, point number 2, individualized attention. Because the teacher now, again, can and is really, in virtual education, because it is a different way of thinking about how you're going to educate students, even in a classroom, is that the teacher can now work with that student one-on-one, really make time. I know at EdOptions Academy, our teachers are required to have office hours. They're required to work with these students one-on-one. One benefit I'll tell you of EdOptions Academy is that we're NCAA approved, but the NCAA is not just when you think about is athletics alone. The NCAA actually has 18 separate standards that a virtual school must meet to be considered a program approved by the NCAA. And one of those very strict standards is working with the students live, one-on-one. And that has to occur. And it's something that is very much mandatory through EdOptions Academy or any good virtual school. And then finally, flexible communications. Really, the one thing for students, it's a concept called social presence. And if you look at any of the studies that are done on virtual education, that a student is going to be successful when they are working in a virtual realm if they know that there is someone on the other side working with them. If they're just working on curriculum because some people say, well, the solution to the teacher shortage is just to bring in the curriculum. You don't need these teachers. We can have that emergency certification and the program teaches the student. That doesn't work. It doesn't work because the students need to know that there's someone on the other side who can help them, that understands the material, that can answer the questions when they need to be answered, and work with the students one-on-one in that curriculum. So again, it's very important that when we're talking about this teacher shortage, that it is again a certified teacher being brought in with that great curriculum. Again, because you're going to be able to give these advantages not only to your program but to your students. Going back to that cost effectiveness a little bit, when you're talking about funding from the state for a student's education and maybe even bringing students back into your program because you're now not you're not really dealing with teacher shortages anymore because you're able to deal with that through a virtual virtual school partnership like if partnering with EdOptions Academy. Basically what happens here is that if you took, I'll give you Florida, for example. The state of Florida, roughly for regular education students, provides $7,000 per student per year to a school district. Well, if you were able to bring students back into your school district, in this example, you'd be bringing another $7,000 back into your school district. But virtual schools, any really actually a good virtual school is not going to cost anywhere near that to provide the even a complete education for that student. So you're talking about a certain virtual programs able to draw students back in will not only just be cost effective but actually bring money back into the school district's coffers that at a rate that is really incredible, and can actually use that for the creation of other programs and do a lot of other things. So again, it's the concept of being very cost effective, solving the solution of the teacher shortage, and allowing school districts to be flexible. And believe me, understand, I'm someone who's been an educator for a long time. Obviously, I grew up in the stand and deliver age. We didn't have this opportunity when I was in school, and I'm still love to be a student, and I love to go in and sit in and listen to lectures and do those things. And a lot of students still need that. So a lot of school districts, when they are short on teachers. They want to bring in teachers to make sure that they can have that teacher live teaching those kids and feel that that's the best way of doing it. Great. This can be that temporary solution, but still, it's going to be a very cost-effective temporary solution. Um, so what would the program look like in and of itself? Well, first of all, students would still be really scheduled into their regular schedule. It's just that when they take their virtual course, they would go and report to a computer lab, the media center, wherever those computers are. It might even be still a regular classroom, like a science room or whatever it may be. But the students would just be working on those courses virtually instead of working with someone who is in the front of the classroom teaching that. Now, there would be still probably a substitute, someone actually monitoring that classroom. But even other options is the student can actually work independently from home, so you don't have to have that. They can actually have a 6th hour or 7th hour off, but with the expectation that they're going to work on that. So again, it allows for a lot of flexibility, for a lot of working independently with students. Obviously, maybe a lot of AP students can do something more independently. Students who are in regular ed may need more help. So then you would definitely want a lab. But it allows for a lot of flexibility where students can actually do the work from. But a huge benefit, and it's the fourth bullet here, is the student is going to have 24/7 access to the material, and actually even have access to the teacher beyond regular school hours. So again, a huge advantage in allowing the student the flexibility to work whenever they want, but also have the availability of a teacher and a teacher and student will, especially through EdOptions Academy, we always work out those hours so the students know exactly when they can be in touch with somebody. The fifth bullet here, students are contacted by their virtual teachers immediately, as well as the parents. Again, this is, as soon as the student is enrolled, usually, the programs that I know of and EdOptions Academy will send out an automated email introducing the student, but we always follow up our teacher with a phone call. To the parents and the students, and really start building the proper relationship with both the student and with the parents, and letting them understand what is going to be the situation. There's also a document that they sign off on. You can call it a contract, but it's basically saying that what the student really promises to do. It's a student code of conduct as well, so they understand how to act and work properly while they're online. And the students will just really, initiate the work. It's not a cohort. It's not a bunch of videos that they watch. They start working, and again, they work at their own pace. And the teachers are facilitating maybe some discussion questions, and they're again reaching out to the students to ask them questions. And the students reaching out to the teacher. To ask questions and really again schedule those live learning sessions. It is really again a model that has been very good for a lot of students. I know that the numbers I see continually, our students are up in the over the 90th percentile in success rates in using this model virtually. Next bullet, if long-term students complete the course and your school issues the credit, because that teacher actually is working for you, working for your school. It's a partnership between our school and your school, and that's what most of the virtual programs will do, so that it still gives you all that local control. We actually have no block between you talking to the teacher and because they work for you. They may be working for us. We may be paying them to do that, but there's no block. Like as I said, you don't need to contact our administration to talk to our teacher. They're working with your kids, and you can contact them directly. And I think that's very important. It builds for a really good partnership. If you're talking about short term, the new hire teacher can actually just pick up where the virtual teacher left off. That means they already have built-in curriculum. Again, that's a huge benefit for a new teacher coming in, especially if they were coming in 1 or 2 months later. That's a very big benefit for them, and actually could draw them into, as you're hiring them, to let them know, hey, lesson plans is done. We already have curriculum ready for you to use. You just need to become familiar with it. And even in a sense, we can even, keep our teacher on for a little bit and kind of use a time frame of allowing a little overlap, which would benefit both students and the new teacher coming in. The keys to success, because and I think this is obviously just really important as far as keys to success are concerned. Buy-in. I would say that, if you want to do this program, you want to do it right, is to have a town hall. Bring the parents in, bring the students in, let them understand what's going on and what is it going to look like. Even if you've already started, you're moving from a substitute teacher into a virtual program. It's really important to get them to understand how it all operates instead of fielding a lot of questions after it already begins. So again, that is a huge key to success. You want all the stakeholders to buy in. So stakeholders being mom and dad, people from the school, and also getting good training for the facilitator in the classroom is obviously very important. Ability to recognize problems and adjust. I guess this comes from my old days from being a football coach and a wrestling coach, but I still think it's very important because you don't want to wait. If there are certain things that are going on that we need to adjust, we need to adjust. In fact, my job title is the Director of Implementation for EdOptions Academy. That means I work with the administrators, the people on the ground who are actually running the program to make sure the program runs correctly. And if we need to make adjustments, do different things, because one rural school does not look like another rural school, and a big school doesn't look like a rural school, and everyone's different, and each community is different. So we need to maybe to work together as partners, but we do a good job at doing that and making sure we reach out as a partner to make sure those things are done. Not doing things in isolation, meaning that please, you have help. If you're talking about a good virtual school partner, they're there to help you. And so don't do it in isolation. Don't think that it's we got this. Don't worry, we're we can do this on our own. If there's a problem, reach out and get the help that you really need. And I think probably one of the most important bullet points is evaluate your program properly. Let's take right from the beginning, I always talk about what are your goals, and how do you want to evaluate this? What are the operational definitions? How are we going to take a look? What does success look like at the end of what we're doing here, whether it's even a short-term or long-term situation? So these are things that are very important, obviously, for a successful implementation of filling that teacher need. I already talked a bit about EdOptions Academy and how we really, believe that this is something that we've been doing for a long time now, and that we are very successful at doing. So, number one, the reason why we're successful at doing it is because we truly are a partner. As I mentioned, we've done this before. We have the experience doing it. We know how to come in. We just don't tell you this is the program and this is how you have to run it. We work with you and we build the program the way you want, and we give you our advice, the best practices, and we really build the program together. The other thing is that we are a fully accredited virtual school. So being accredited ourselves, regionally accredited through Advanced Ed, that means if you needed us for some reason to issue the credit, we can, and it counts everywhere. So that's very important. I already mentioned that we're NCAA approved, which on its face value is very important for anyone who's a Division I, Division II athlete potentially. But also, again, it's a third party that came in and took a look at us and really, put a feather in our cap, let's put it that way, approving us. They do not approve a lot of virtual programs. If you look throughout the country, it's very difficult to get NCAA approved. So not only are we regionally accredited, NCAA approved, I don't have it listed here, but we are also the only virtual school in the country that has the seal of alignment for readiness from ISTE, which is one of the industry standards. And what they basically said, they took a look at our program, took a look at everything we do, and said that students will be college ready once they go through EdOptions Academy courses, which is nice. So again, just making the point of us putting ourselves out there constantly for that scrutiny and gaining the accolades that any partner that we work with wants to see that we're so ready to do. Anytime, anywhere access, obviously, that is, students can work any day of the year, 24/7. We give them access. Mom and dad have access to the system as well, and they can always check on progress. We are wide open. We want to make sure that we are continually, going to work with the administration, with whoever is facilitator in the room, with moms and dads. But we also follow all the FERPA laws, so don't worry about that. No one's getting in and seeing what the student's information is. We really follow up and are very proud of the fact that we are in and of ourselves a school. And we follow all of the laws pertaining to that. Let me just real quick examples of our success when it comes to filling teacher need. Here are just two: Richland Springs, Texas. They've been using us since 2011. Actually, it seems longer than that, but it doesn't seem to me that 2011 was just yesterday. So, but that's actually going on 7 years now. They could not find a Spanish teacher, and they have actually been using us ever since. They have a 86% completion rate. That means students finishing it, who obviously finishing the course completely. And of those students, they have a 99% passing rate. So that is pretty astounding. And then East Carroll Parish in Louisiana, they began using us in 2014, 2015. I do not have the 2016 numbers, and we should be getting those and the 2017 numbers soon. But really their completion rate was 96% with a 99% passing rate. And just some others, I mean, not just in the South here in Texas and Louisiana, but we've done things in Kentucky, we've done things in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania. Atlantic City, New Jersey is one that I could think of. They did not have a chemistry teacher, and we were able to implement something for them very quickly. They were, by the time that the program was over at the end of the year, very happy that they were able to provide the service to their students and felt that the students were very well educated. So those are examples of what we've done with EdOptions Academy and teacher shortage. I've already mentioned my job as actually the implementation director, but that's the one great thing that, what we really truly believe, EdOptions Academy is not just affordable, but we don't nickel and dime anybody. Any of these services, my services, are all part of the contract. So there's never an administrative fee, a consultative fee, none of that. It is truly a program that we have designed to really just help you be the best partner that we can be, and help you be successful and help students move forward and gain their diploma so that they can actually move on to the next level of wherever they want to go, which is of course important. So we are done. So this is time for our questions and answers. So Misty, do we have any questions out there?
Hi, Scott. Yes, we have a few questions. The first question is, can parents reach out to the online teacher directly? And will the teacher reach out to the parents?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. The parent, obviously, they can reach out to the teacher. The teacher provides all of the contact information right there at the beginning of the course. They want to build that relationship with the parents and the students, but there's nothing blocking them from doing that.
Thanks. Okay, the next question is, what is the enrollment window for fall, or do you have open enrollment?
Another great question. We have rolling enrollment, and that's why we really can provide an emergency solution if needed. And we've done that. As I said, Atlantic City was a good example of that. They had already started; they were 2 or 3 weeks in to the semester. Could not get that chemistry teacher, and we got their program going in less than a week. And one of the reasons, obviously, is because of that rolling enrollment. We allow our school district partners and our school partners to make the decisions of enrollment timeframes, but we ourselves are rolling enrollment, which solves a lot of issues. Next question.
Okay. Yes. Are administrators able to talk to the virtual teacher?
Great. Another great question. Yes, absolutely. Again, just to reiterate, do not have any blocks between your administrators and our teachers. Basically, in our consideration, is they are working for you. So they can be contacted directly. And if anything, for example, IEPs. We work with a lot of students who have IEPs and 504s. Our teachers can be directly informed by you that there's a meeting going on, and we usually ask for 48 to 72-hour notice so our teachers can schedule and be part of that meeting. That doesn't, again, have to work through our administration to get to our teacher. You have the information to contact the teacher and can do so directly to do many of those things.
Great. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah,
One last question. Do you
sure.
offer AP courses?
Absolutely. We have, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, Missy, but we have 7 AP courses. And yes, and we'd be able to offer anybody our course list because we have over 400 semesters worth of courses now. So beyond those APs, we do have a ton of different courses that students can use.
Thanks. Okay, we actually had a couple more questions come in.
Oh, good.
The first one is, do you offer PE? And yes, we do. And then the second one is, are your courses aligned with end of course exams?
Great questions. First of all, Missy, you already answered the PE question, and yes, we have an unbelievable number of PE courses, to tell you the truth. Multiple different things that can qualify for that. So I would love for anyone to take a look at our course listing. They'd be very impressed. And I'm sorry, what was the other one, real quick?
The other one was, are your courses aligned with
Oh,
end of course
aligned.
exams? Yes.
Yes, because our courses are aligned to the standards. Um, so um, so obviously any state that requires end of course exams for courses, we have already, our curriculum team is already matched to the standards of the state. I'll give you an example, and actually an example of how we're a good partner too, through Edmentum is in North Carolina. We had a virtual school that actually the virtual school students did better than the average student in the county and the state for 2 of the 3 um, mandatory statewide tests that they had to take. The third one, they didn't do as well. And what we did is went through the course with them and really worked to actually create a better course. And that's another thing that I think is a huge benefit of being with a partner like Edmentum, is the fact that we will work with our customers all the time to make us a better product, make our curriculum better, and really do the job the right way. And I think that's why we have such happy customers for the most part.
Okay, so you actually kind of answered the next question, which was, what is the success rate for students who take the end of course exams? You basically already answered that. And then the next question is, do you offer career and technology courses?
Yes. Another great question. Yes, we do, and we have over 100 semesters worth of different CTE courses now. And in fact, the one thing that is really nice is because a lot of those students actually want to take CT courses, but a lot of them also want to take tracks that lead towards certification. And what we have developed right now this summer, we're going to release two different tracks that lead towards certification. And one is a nursing assistant, and the other one is comp. If I remember right, Misty, comp TIA, and it, again, both leading towards certification. But we're also moving towards other tracks, and those are just the first two that we're going to release. Edmentum has really invested a lot of money into creating those courses that will allow students to really go through many of our different career technical technical and education courses, but also many of those eventually, I would see with the next couple of years, we're going to have a ton of different tracks. So it's very nice to know that that's the case, that students can leave with certification and a diploma. So ready to work and really open up a lot of doors.
And thanks, Scott. And in the chat, I just went ahead and put a link for our course catalog. So you can see all of the courses that we do offer, and it will have every single course title listed with the corresponding number of semesters as well. So we'll just stay on for a couple of more minutes, and if there are any other questions, please feel free to chat those in and we will get them answered.
I do want to thank everybody, by the way. I didn't want to go totally silent there as if anyone's asking another question, but I want to thank you all for joining us today. It's been truly a pleasure sharing this information with you. Hopefully it was helpful. If you want to contact us, please, we will be sending out information via email to through your registration, and we hope to talk to you all soon, and hopefully work with y'all to help you with any of these needs. Again, thank you all. We appreciate it. And Misty, thank you for being such a great hostess for this meeting today.
No problem. Thank you, everyone.
Take care now. Bye-bye.